Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 7 o'clock p.m. This is a regular meeting of the Kaneland Board of Education. We would like to inform all board member attendees that this meeting is being live streamed and archived for access at any time for our community members on the internet within 24 to 48 hours of the meeting's conclusion. Before we do the pledge, I'd like to have a moment of silence. So I'm going to read something here. It is with heavy hearts as we remember Chris Ruhai, one of our valued Kaneland High School staff members. Chris served as a dedicated school resource officer at Kaneland High School since 2022 and a Kane County deputy for 26 years. Chris had an evident passion for students and staff as he had children graduate from Kaneland High School. The school resource officer role is more than just a job for Chris, as it was clear that safety and security was a personal and professional passion. This was evident during the fire at KHS last year as he thought of others first by entering the school. Chris will be missed. Now please join me in a moment of silence to remember and honor the life of Deputy Chris Ruhai. And just as a reminder, students and families may reach out to the Kaneland administration, to the administration of the Kaneland High School, and support will be made available. Mr. McCoy, will you please lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And a roll call, please.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Here.
Mr. Kleisner.
Here.
Mr. Cook.
Here.
Dr. Lawler.
Here.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Here.
Mr. McCauley.
Here.
Mrs. Simmons.
Here.
7 members present. We do have a quorum. Mr. Cook is attending via phone this evening. Okay. Is there anything that the board would like to move from consent agenda to new business? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Abstain.
Mr. Cook. Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0 with 1 abstain. Okay, it is now time for the board/superintendent salutes. At this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Layton.
Yes, thank you. We do not have any formal salutes for tonight. In April, we will have our winter sports and activities that will be shared. And I do know that under the student ambassador report tonight, I know that Katie has a few highlights from the high school that I will save and let her share. So as far as formal salutes, we do not have any for tonight.
Okay. Dr. Fuchs?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, the board appreciates everyone in attendance this evening and invites you to stay as we move to the new business part of the meeting. We understand that not everyone is able to stay for the entirety of the meeting and want to make sure you know that this is an open meeting, so you're able to come and go as you need, and we look forward to seeing you at future events. Tonight's consent agenda contains the following items. Following action items: 1, approval of accounts payable and payroll February 2024, approval of the minutes of February 12th, 2024 meeting, approval of personnel, approval of the Harder Middle School coursework, second reading, approval of grant easement, 94 gas vault KHS, approval of athletic training, of the athletic training contract section, and the following informational items: the student suspension data report and the Freedom of Information FOIA report, Information Act FOIA report. Okay, so at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as approved.
Second.
And a roll call, please.
Mrs. Simmons.
Abstain.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried 6-0 with 1 abstain. We're going to proceed with the public comment portion of the meeting. Few people signed up at this time. We use the public comment section as an opportunity to listen to our stakeholders. The board does not debate or engage in conversation during this time. I'd like to remind everyone to state your name and village of residence for the record. Please Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Public comment is a maximum of 30 minutes with a 20-minute total length of time for any one subject. Those who speak are asked to maintain a tone of courtesy and civility. So at this time, we will call, this is Jerry Elliott.
Thank you for having me. Jerry Elliott, Grove Township, 39W686 Prairie Street, New York. Talk again about the new district $57 million referendum. As review, our school district currently holds $107 million past referendum upon debt. The district will miss payment on debt by $785,000 this year. And to adjust, you move this payment to next year and plan to do again for the next 2 years throughout 2026. Most people would say that the district is in financial trouble when you cannot pay our bills. The district will miss payment on the debt, plus the district statement of net position of a negative 20 million reinforces the same fact. This district is broke by accounting standards. So the question is, why are you considering an additional $57 million of our debt? This doesn't make common sense to me. Thank you. I'll yield back my time.
Thank you for your comments. Next up, we have Jennifer Crocker.
My name is Jennifer Crocker. I'm a resident of Sugar Grove, and I'm back to speak about KIPLA again. On January 11th, KIPLA 8th grade parents were informed without warning that the promised expansion to 9th grade wasn't happening. Within 1 to 2 days, we shared this information with each of you. For the past 6 weeks, KIPLA parents and students and staff members have attended 4 school board meetings sharing their personal stories and experiences from the brief time that KIPLA has existed, all of them positive. We presented you with our thoughts on the significant impact personalized learning will have on our students' education and their future careers, as well as our opinions on the long-term benefits to the district and the community. Through many public comments and emails, I believe we provided you with a thorough picture of how this school has impacted our children and the immense impact it can have on generations of students to come. We've done our part, and now we need you to do yours. 6 weeks ago, our students were excited about school and looking forward to next year, but the rug was pulled out from under them and us. I spoke to one of the KIPLA staff members last week that shared that this situation has created a very noticeable cloud over the 8th grade students. We've been stuck in limbo for 6 weeks, and you hold the power to make a decision. Please make sure that KIPLA is on the next March 11th agenda and vote to expand to 9th grade. We expect to see KIPLA parents at every board meeting, as well as continuing emails until we're given a clear path forward. We're committed to the future of KIPLA and hope you are as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. So at this time, I'm going to go and open the floor to anyone else who would like to address the board for public comment. Of course.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Soderstrom, and I've been an owner resident since 2012. I recently addressed the board in January and February 2024 about the expansion of the KIPLA program into 9th grade and plan to do so tonight. I spent the last several months reviewing all of the Board of Education meeting notes and various financial materials related to KIPLA that date back to June 2023. I'd like to offer a summary of some related findings for board consideration. As of January 17, 2024, at the end of quarter 2, which ended on December 31st, the budget for the fiscal year of 2023-2024 is on target for receiving revenues and expenditures. Year to date, the district has spent 52% of budgeting operating expenses, with the most significant expenses being salary and benefits of staff. It was noted by the referendum planning team the projected target date for an anticipated referendum vote is planned for November 2024.
as of December 11th, 2023, information regarding the property tax levy was discussed, representing a total levy increase of 5.63%, with the district expecting 6.3% more, 6.30% more than last year in operating funds, equaling $69,773,790. Money from the annual tax levy will help provide programs, services, operating costs, and other expenses for fiscal year 2024-2025. There is a specific breakdown of these monies contained in the notes, but notably, the Education Fund anticipates receiving $43.3 million. Operations and Maintenance anticipates receiving $6.5 million, and Transportation anticipates receiving $1.5 million. All of those areas are areas that have been brought up during these meetings as concerns from the community about if there is funding available. Yes, there is. These are all funds that are additional increases compared to the current fiscal year 2023-2024 budget. Notably, new residential and commercial construction and development has impacted this increase by developing a larger tax base of property across the Kaneland School District, and this development is projected to continue in the upcoming years. For example, in the Elburn Committee of the Whole meeting notes from the end of the year, it was noted that roughly 100 new building permits were pulled, which will materialize in finished builds, providing increased funding revenue for the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget. I'm going to pause, and if it's okay, I will finish at the second comment.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stalka?
Hi, Scott Stolkup from Sugar Grove. I got 3 kids in the district. Regarding Kipla, and at the end, it reduces down to a very simple thing, really, in my mind. Where can you spend the money to have the greatest impact for the greatest quantity of students? And if you believe Kipla's it, you should spend the money there. If you think that spending those funds some other way has a bigger impact on the district and the kids in the district, then you should spend the funds there. So as you look at this, it's about equality for all of the district kids, not just a 2% or a 0.2% of students that are at Kipla. But I will say again, if you think that's where you get the most impact for those dollars, then you should spend it there. But I would need to really be convinced of that, knowing we have 4,000 kids in the district. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Would anyone else like to speak at this time? Just a reminder, there will be an opportunity to speak near the end of the meeting. Okay. That being done, we will move to the new business portion of the meeting. And J1, which is the approval of Dr. Kurt Rowling Superintendent Employment Contract. The journey to hire a new superintendent began on October 11, 2023 at a Board of Education meeting. District 302 started the process of hiring the new superintendent by announcing Dr. Todd Layton's planned retirement for June 30th, 2025, and outlining the superintendent search process protocols. As a school board, our next step in the superintendent search process is to approve the contract for Dr. Kurt Rowling. At this time, I will entertain a motion that the Board of Education approve the employment contract for Dr. Kurt Rowling from July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2028 as presented.
So moved.
And a roll call, please.
Wait, hold on, Julie, did you get what you
I did
needed?
get it.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Cook? Mr. McCauley?
Aye.
Dr. Lawler?
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Aye.
Mr. Minkowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner?
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons?
Aye.
All right. Passes 7-0. So, I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit of a narrative, and y'all will have to forgive me for the repetitiveness of it. But for those who haven't been a part of this process, we just want to go through the process with you, and then we're going to give Dr. Rowling a chance to speak. So, first, we'd like to recognize and thank Dr. Todd Layton, who's done an outstanding job leading the school district. His dedication to education and improving the lives of the students and staff is truly commendable. Dr. Layden has always been focused on successful student and family outcomes and has worked collaboratively with staff to achieve this goal. Thank you for your contributions to the Kaneland School District. We look forward to you and other district stakeholders working with Dr. Rowling as he transitions to be the next Kaneland Superintendent. So a little bit on the background of the process. Ownership of the hiring process and fiscal responsibility was demonstrated by the Kaneland School Board to complete the superintendent search instead of hiring a costly search firm that can exceed $25,000. This move not only saves money, but also shows that the board is committed to making sound financial decisions while also ensuring that the hiring process is conducted thoroughly and effectively. A special thank you to Director of Communications, David Chavez, for your work throughout the process. Truly thank you. Parents, students, teachers, support staff, administrators, and community members participated in, this is the initial part of the process, forgive me. Parents, students, teachers, support staff, administrators, and community members participated in a survey to express their views on the school district and the qualities they would like to see in the next superintendent. The survey results were available on the district's website on October 31st, 2023. We had over 600 responses, and thank you to everyone who participated. The next step was on October 26th, the Board of Education hosted a focus group with the Citizens Advisory Committee members. Thank you again for letting us take over your meeting. And other community members to gather feedback from the community about the next superintendent to lead Kaneland CUSD number 302. The feedback received was valuable and insightful, and it played an instrumental role in developing the leadership profile and interview questions. And it truly was. It's not just words on the page. We appreciate all the feedback, and it was taken into account through this entire process. So thank you all for your participation. The next step was development of a leadership profile, which served as an additional resource for identifying the ideal candidate for the Kaneland superintendent position. Some of the interview questions were created based on your feedback and were used throughout the interview process. We want to express our sincere gratitude to all those who participated in the focus group. Your input identified the specific qualities and characteristics the community seeks in a superintendent. On November 6th, the board held the first round of superintendent interviews at Kaneland Harder Middle School. The interview teams were made up of over 30 Kaneland community members, including board members, staff, parents, and students. Again, we appreciate your participation in this portion of it. It was truly valuable, and it was also a great opportunity for us as board members to engage with you all and have meaningful discussions. So thank you. The Kaneland Board of Education demonstrated our commitment to identifying the best candidate for the job by taking a thorough and thoughtful approach after conducting the general interviews that included input from many stakeholders. The board narrowed down the pool of candidates on November 29, 2023 during the finalist interviews. The board then went on to meet the finalists multiple times in a variety of venues and settings, allowing them to get to know each finalist on a personal level. This diligent approach ensured that the board was able to make an informed decision and select the best candidate for the role. So just so you guys know a little bit of background, we took this opportunity, given the timeline that we had and the amount of time, we took this opportunity to get to know these individuals on a more personal level, engage in actual conversation rather than a formal interview format. And I think it was very beneficial because we were able to get to know a little bit more the person rather than just the figure. So at this time, we would like to announce the next superintendent of Kaneland CUSD number 302. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Kurt Rowling. Kurt, and meet me at the podium. So, Dr. Rowling has an extensive educational background with experience in multiple levels of school administration, including an ED in educational leadership from Aurora University, Assistant Superintendent of Schools from Round Lake Area School District number 116, Director of Secondary Education at Round Lake, Director of Social Studies and World Languages, and AVID District Director in Algonquin CUSD number 300, and the Hampshire Middle School Principal, to name a few of his accomplishments. At this time, I'm going to turn the podium over to Dr. Rowling.
As you get to know me, you'll know I really don't read off of paper very often, but I was afraid I'd be too excited or what have you. So good evening. It's the honor of a lifetime to be chosen as the next superintendent of Kaneland Community School District. I want to thank the Board of Education for the opportunity and their confidence in my ability to be a leader in the future of Kaneland. As I went through the selection process, it became evident that Kaneland is a special place with a commitment to excellence and a strong community that is invested in the schools. Serving as a superintendent in a student-minded school district with strong community ties has been my goal for a number of years, and I'm very excited to achieve that goal here in Kaneland. I look forward to continuing the great work underway by Dr. Layden, the administration, and the staff, and I'm sorry, I just lost my and working to guide Kaneland through the next phase of growth. Standing on the current foundation of excellence, I look forward to helping Kaneland achieve new heights. I'm blessed to be here with my wife, Colleen O'Keefe, and my son, Quentin, who will be in the Kaneland graduating class of 2037. Seems like so long, doesn't it? Over the coming year, my family and I will be investing in our future here by working to become part of the community and getting to know the great people of Kaneland. Go Knights.
First of many, official Kaneland swag. Thank you, Kurt. It's great to meet you. It's been great meeting you and interacting with you and your family. And congratulations on this next step. We're excited to welcome our next superintendent and look forward to working together to continue to drive excellence and collaboration with the school district. We look forward to the transition time over the next 15 months. And just want to say congratulations again. Thank you. The board is committed to providing support to the next superintendent to continue to lead the district to new heights. With a focus on student success and dedication to the community, the board is confident that our next superintendent will help shape the future of education for the students and staff of the Kaneland community. We appreciate the community's feedback and input during this process and look forward to the future. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, just a reminder, it's an open meeting.
No judgment.
Enjoy your evening.
Thank you for coming.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Hi, Quentin.
I want what's in the bag.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is J2, which is the public hearing for the approval of the driver education fees. Mrs. Jackie Bogan, please provide more information.
Yes, so tonight we have a public hearing for driver's education fees. This is an annual process that the district engages in. Pursuant to Public Act 96734, this allows the district to charge for driver's education up to $250. This has been a longstanding practice within the district. This year we are asking again for the charge of the fee of $250. So no change from prior year. This is based on the overall cost for the driver's education program. So in your board memo, it was listed out information from the 22-23 school year. The total revenues between local fees and the state reimbursement were just under $90,000 at $89,900. The total expenditures for the district in 22-23 were $476,591. So if we look at the number of students enrolled in that year for driver's education, which was 307, the total cost was $1,552 with a net cost $1,259. So the $250 fee helps offset some of the total cost of implementing driver's education. Just to put this into perspective a little bit, if a student were to go and seek out a private company for their driver's education needs, they would pay approximately about $400 for that same. So this fee, along with every other fee in the district, is waived for students that qualify under free and reduced lunch. So just like any of the other fees, a student who qualifies under free and reduced would either have a reduced or a waived fee for driver's education. So
Mrs. Bogan, can I pause for just a second?
Sure.
We were supposed to open the public hearing prior to her discussing, is that correct? Will this,
Yes.
will changing the order mess anything up?
I can totally
Should I,
repeat
can
this.
I open it now?
Yeah, go ahead and open it now.
I
You all
apologize.
can hear it again.
Okay, it is now 7:25, and I'm calling the public hearing on the driver's education fee for 2024-2025 to order. Mrs. Bogan?
Sure. So just to kind of go over that again, so Public Act 96734 allows school districts to charge up to $250 for driver's education fees. That is the maximum. The district has had a longstanding practice of charging that maximum fee to help offset some of the costs for the driver's education program. Total revenues between state and local fees collected were just under $90,000 at $89,900. Total expenditures for the 22-23 school year were $476,591. So if we look at the total number of students that were enrolled of 307, the total net cost is $1,259. So that $250 fee helps offset some of the total costs of that program. So, are there any questions?
So at this time, we're going to invite the public to come and make any comments regarding the driver education fees. Keeping in mind the public comment guidelines stated earlier. Okay. Hearing no further comments, I will close the public hearing at 7:27 p.m. And we'll now open up for discussion amongst the Board of Education on approval of the driver's education fees. Any discussion, any questions?
Maybe just a quick question, Mrs. Bogan. I mean, I could probably do the math, but I bet you're better at it than I am. So, like, what's the cost per student for driver's ed?
So if we look at the total cost per student,
Yeah.
the total cost is $1,552, but the net cost, like if we look at those offsetting revenues, it's $1,259.
Okay, that's what you said. I wanted to make sure I heard that.
Yep.
Right. Okay, perfect.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Hearing no further comment from the board, at this time I'll entertain a motion that the Board of Education approves the attached resolution to maintain the 2024, I think this is a typo, it should say 2025, driver's education fee for Kaneland High School at $250 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Motion passes 7-0. The driver's education fee is approved. Okay, the third item of new business is the discussion of the proposed Crown, Tip, and Sugar Grove. Dr. Layton.
Yes, thank you. Series of board meetings starting in September through end of January. Provided some information to our Board of Education, and part of that, the board had a series of questions for our community, and then also questions for Sugar Grove. So if you recall, January 29th, we had Jennifer Conan and Scott Keppel both came from the village to answer questions. And then after that, our board had questions that you would like answered. So we've invited Ken Flory, attorney from Robin Schwarz, to kind of lay out some of the expectations of what the board could plan to expect as part of the process, and also provide the opportunity for the board to ask Mr. Flory direct questions on the topic, and just to see what the board needs to know to be informed, to be able to make a decision moving forward one way or the other. So with that, Mr. Flory, if you can give us a little bit of background, on TIFs, the process, and then the board, we'll open it up for the board members to ask questions.
Thank you. It's good to meet all of you. Thank you for having me out here. Hopefully I'll be able to answer a lot of your questions that you have now, and questions that will come up down the road as we get further along in this process. So I listened to the last presentation by the village from your January board meeting. And I'll just expand on that a little bit. So the TIF districts are initially a 23-year period. It can be extended 12 more years for a total of 35 years. And there are some movements out there to even re-TIF property, change some of the parcels. So that's not very popular, and obviously a lot of the districts fight that, whether that's legal under the TIF statute. But that's kind of your big picture of how long these things can go. The 12-year extension, the General Assembly requires the taxing bodies to approve that. So that's the one time that you have significant leverage if the village does decide to extend it from 23 years to 35 years. At this stage, for the initial TIF process, the village will convene a joint review board, and that board has a representative of each of the taxing districts that choose to attend. The mayor appoints a citizen, and this is an initial body that is supposed to hear about the TIF, hear why this property qualifies for a TIF, look at the financials of what the expected growth of the TIF will be, and then they vote on it, send that vote to the village board, and then the village board decides to go ahead or not go ahead with the TIF. If the joint review board does not agree with the TIF, it doesn't stop it. It just changes the vote requirements at the village board level. It's more or less an advisory body. They just don't have the power to stop the TIF. So TIF districts, they're very popular in Illinois by the municipalities. We've seen some, and I've been working with school districts for over 30 years. And all those years I've spent working with TIF districts and on behalf of school districts. So I've seen them grow over the years. Some of them are very successful, others not so much. The concept is solid if it pans out. You have property that would have low assessed value, even though the money that you derive from this property is frozen during the life of the TIF. So what you received the day before the TIF was finally approved, you're going to get that for the 23 years. The value is going to grow of this property. That's the goal of the TIF with development. And that growth creates a pot of money that the village can spend in a variety of ways to develop the property. If there's a residential component, as this proposed TIF does have, then the school district, any students that come from that TIF, the school district's tuition can be reimbursed on an annual basis. That's probably the one positive thing for residential TIFs. But the idea is during this 23-year period that the TIF district will grow. At the end of 23 years, it has grown hopefully exponentially, and then that money then comes back to the district in the next year after the TIF has expired. Again, unless they don't extend it for another 12 years. The idea is, the concept is, this land would not grow without TIF assistance for development. Usually infrastructure, but it can also go towards a variety of expenses in the development process. So again, since the school district is the biggest taxing body, it bears most of the pain of a TIF district. It's been called as an investment. You're investing that growth funds to the developers, to the infrastructure, so that when it's over, you'll get a great return on that investment. It's hard when you for 23 years, it's a long period, and then even longer for 35 years. Many times I see if there is an extension.
To that point,
Yes.
is 23 years a mandated maximum? It could be less.
Absolutely.
So there's no requirement that it be for 23 years. That if Sugar Grove was willing to, under circumstances, it could be for a shorter term.
Absolutely.
5 years, 10 years, whatever.
Yes. So the 23 years is the maximum.
Okay. Yeah.
Typically, there are bonds that are issued through. So that's the one trigger that the bonds are usually issued anticipating.
Revenue bonds or GO?
Combination, depending on their bond, depending on what the expenditures are. If it's for infrastructure, the bonds to pay for that. Infrastructure, if it's through if it's through direct contributions to the developers, they're going to be probably double barrel bonds. The revenue that's coming in from the increased property value is going to pay it off, and then it's backed up by the village's tax.
So revenue bonds backed up by GO.
Right.
So potentially Sugar Grove taxpayers could be on the hook for it.
If the
If it ends up like Bridge, let's go through the list. Bridgeview, DeKalb, the other places where TIFs have failed and not generated, it's entirely possible, right?
the taxpayers bear that burden. Correct.
It's GO obligation. Congratulations, Sugar Grove taxpayers. Yeah. It could be for a shorter term.
Would be for a shorter term, it's up to the village. Some villages, if there's excess revenue in the TIF pool, they'll refund some of that revenue. That's not as common. It would have to be wildly successful, and they'd have to run out of things to spend it on. So I wouldn't bank on that.
Can I ask you a question about process?
Sure.
So joint review board, because they're kind of advice, and then the village board has the choice to then vote it up or vote it down.
Yes.
The village board votes it down. What then is next steps for the developer?
They could try to come back and,
Okay.
and rearrange it, come up with different potential expenditures for the board to vote it up, to come back and reapprove it. It's typically not just one developer, it's multiple
Okay.
uses for the property. So if it's voted down, it's pretty unusual for it to come back and get approved, because the village board has input along this whole process. They're being advised about what the potential developments are, any zoning approvals, obviously. So they've had plenty of input, and that's why what they would have wanted to see in it or not see in it, you would hope to be done when it's the baked product and it's before them for final approval. So if it gets shut down, it's not likely to get reapproved.
So
Not
it's-
impossible, but
Is it safe to say that the developer or should know really where the vote is going by the time they get to a final vote? Or have a good inclination of it?
you would hope, obviously, they,
Yeah.
just like you, they don't make decisions behind closed doors on a TIF. So hopefully they're getting feedback, whether it's through the zoning process, just feedback through their representatives from the village who do talk to the board members. So you would hope when it gets to that point that the developer believes it's going to be approved.
Okay.
You say tuition per student on residential,
Yes.
that tuition would be calculated how? And would that be frozen as well?
No, it would be your
Out of district tuition or in district?
in district, because it would be, so it would be in district.
So would it be more like a capitation, like whatever cost of educating per student is?
Yeah, you have to report to ISB, the state board, every year,
Right.
your student.
And based upon that, that's what the TIF district is supposed to pay?
Correct, if there's revenue there to pay it.
If there's revenue?
But they won't be paying it from the tax base, so they would,
No, I get that.
yeah.
Wait, say that again?
Can you clarify that? Can you break that down?
So if the TIF was a spectacular failure, if you've named some of those, and there's not any money to pay for the tuition, then it doesn't get paid. It would accrue, and eventually it could get it paid, but if it failed, then that would be money that wouldn't be paid.
So there's not a guarantee? Because I thought at the last meeting we were told that there is a guarantee that we're gonna get per student X amount. That's not true?
Well, the assumption is that there's the increased revenue, so as the property value grows and the tax pool of tax dollars grows, that's gonna be enough to pay the tuition. So they're looking at the types of units.
Future figures rather than concrete. It's hope, they're basing it
Yes.
on hope.
We're getting
Okay.
They're making projections.
Okay.
So that we're gonna have so many units, the average number of kids per unit, your tuition, the value of those homes, it's gonna generate X number of dollars, and they're hoping that pays. Again, we all know a home's property taxes doesn't come close to paying for the cost of a student, let alone multiple students. So they're relying on non-residential development in the TIF to fund that tuition.
Can you go to an example of a school district that didn't go well? That was something similar to this, like what we would be looking at if,
Well, it's usually if the
Worst case.
development, you know, if you build it, they will come, doesn't happen. They get the TIF is there, they've got the poles, you know, they've got infrastructure and they've got a water tower. You know, we've seen housing go up and down, right? As we know, out in this area, you know, there's some districts were building a new school a year for housing, and then 2006, 2007 comes and it comes to a screeching halt. And now they're, you know, those areas still haven't recovered. So you have to know that the demand is there. If you can plan all the housing you want, but if the demand isn't there to sell a portion of those homes before they're built, before the development goes in, then that may not go as well as the village would hope. But hopefully they've got TIF experts that have done this analysis, done the market analysis. And again, commercials usually comes first because that's probably got the greatest likelihood of success, and there's no tuition obviously from that. But again, that's guesswork too. If we build this warehouse, will there be tenants for it? And then so there's all projections. It's a big business plan. No different than if someone went to the bank and said, we want to borrow a bunch of money and here's how we're going to run our business, and we keep our fingers crossed that it works.
But they could very well do that. They could go in terms of infrastructure improvement. Sugar Grove could just go ahead and borrow it, put it on the tax roll, not put all the burden, you know, doing, you know, a big infrastructure favor for a bunch of billionaires and do it at the expense of Kaneland students, right? It's entirely possible. Naperville did it that way, didn't they? I believe Warrenville, their development along I-88.
Development occurs every day without tax subsidy. So there's supposed to be a but-for analysis, meaning but for this subsidy it won't occur, but that's, you know.
Can you,
Yeah.
Mr. Foy, can you expand a little more on the but for?
Yeah.
And how stringent the law is on, you know, what burden of proof do you have to show that this land is not developable? I don't know if that's Rochester words. But for the TIF.
But for the subsidy it won't occur.
Yeah.
It's a lot of assumptions, and since the village is putting this together, those assumptions are easy. It's easy to meet that test because they can't sign any commitments until the TIF is created. So they're talking to the developers, they're doing all these potential, but they're not committing to the money because the developer is supposed to say, I couldn't build this without the infrastructure being paid for. It just doesn't have the return. I could pay to extend water and sewer out to my site unless there was a subsidy, and without that subsidy, I can't build on that property. So it's a relatively easy test. That's districts have, over the years, a few districts have challenged the creation of TIFs. Some have succeeded. I think one of the most famous ones, downtown Highland Park in North Shore, obviously, that did not need a TIF to develop those commercial properties. And there have been a couple others, but for the most part, those challenges are very hard to win from the school district side or taxpayer side.
And once again, if it goes south, geo bonds to back it up, Village of Sugar Grove. Village of Sugar Grove is on the right.
So in regards to the joint review board, our representation on this joint review board,
Yes.
typically how's that structured? Do we as a board agree that we're gonna have this position going into that process, going to that table, and then we assign a representative?
Yes.
Based on that?
Yeah, you assign a representative, typically someone from the staff, to go and hear the presentation. You've hopefully seen all the materials ahead of time so that when you advise your representative which way you want that person to vote, then that takes place. Sometimes the joint review board meetings are done in one single meeting. Other times it's a multiple meeting, so that there's a way to get feedback from the various boards.
Is it an open meeting? Can
Yes.
the public attend?
Yes.
How much influence does the school board have on this if, we go one way or the other? Is there,
As a school attorney, not as much as I would like. If the village board has the votes to approve it, everyone on the joint review board can vote no, and it can still go through.
Essentially just putting a statement out there and hoping we can sway public opinion.
I'm sorry.
Essentially just putting a statement out there and hoping we can sway public opinion.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter about public opinion at all.
Well-
It's the board of Sugar Grove, right? Ultimately, who's going to vote on it.
Correct.
So, I mean, obviously, the entire community could say, I don't want this and not be okay with it, but it could still go forward because there's not a whole lot of choice.
It can, but my experience is most village boards they listen to their own residents.
Yeah.
If they're getting a strong pushback from their own residents or the zoning board doesn't approve it, most elected officials that I have seen and work with are sensitive to that.
Okay.
It's a rare one that's gonna look at the face of massive opposition and say, I don't care what you think, I'm gonna vote for it.
Okay.
Let alone a majority of that board.
Got it. So I guess ultimately, and it's still completely unclear to me, who's benefiting from this, or is everybody going to eventually benefit from it if it happens and everything works out in 23 years plus potentially 12 more years? Is that where is it just a long-term investment from Sugar
That's
Grove
exactly
standpoint?
what
That's it.
Yeah.
Because in the short term, nobody's really going to get anything out of it. I know we did talk about we'll get our same tax levy as normal for whatever the value is at that moment, right?
Yes.
And then potentially get the cost per student for residential that moves into there if there are students that enter into the district. That is iffy, and if there's issues and they don't have the money to fund it from the commercial side, we might not see that actual additional revenue. Now, in addition to the students, wasn't there opportunity for additional dollars to come back to the school district? Is that guaranteed? Is that like where
That's part of all the negotiation. Ideally, you have an intergovernmental agreement with the village, laying out all the details of the tuition, laying out, seeing if you can qualify for any other types of payments. Some capital improvement payments can be part of this agreement. Other types of payments can be part of this agreement. The trickiest part is the law requires if the village gives one taxing body money, it's supposed to give all the taxing bodies a proportionate amount. So it's a little tricky on how you prepare the intergovernmental agreement, but there are some other legally defensible types of payments that can be made.
can you clarify, I just want to clarify this. So you said, so the day, if the TIF goes through the day before, whatever revenue is there gets divvied, but then it's frozen, that's it.
Yes.
Like, then the 23 year of it's locked down, we get nothing.
So, yeah, so let's presume it's farmland. I'm presuming most of this, very low EAV, obviously. You're gonna continue to get your money that you received the year before the TIF was created. The farmland is developed, the assessment grows, it grows a pot of tax dollars. The village has control over that pot of tax dollars, but it can only spend that money as authorized by the TIF statute. So they can't go, there have been litigation over expenditures. Building a firehouse, building a library, building other types of village halls, is that allowable for use of TIF funds? That's another subject for another day if we got into infrastructure, water, sewer, water towers, roads, clearly allowable. And then there's a laundry list of other things that the village can use TIF dollars for. And the theory is at the end of this development, 23 years, if it's been fully built out and there's money left over, then it gets returned to all the taxing districts.
Assuming it doesn't get extended.
Theoretically.
Well, most of the time you do see the request to extend it for 12 more years. But at that point, again, you're in the driver's seat. You can then obtain more concessions from the village.
So why would somebody request another 12 years on top of the 23 then? What is the purpose? Just to continue to grow, like to hold the money, or why?
They would say it's not done yet. It's not fully built out, not fully developed, but we think it can.
How far within the 23 years do they have to start? They have to announce that they want to extend it 12 years? like at the 23rd year, or is there?
Again, they need, it needs actually the General Assembly has to approve the extension. So it's longer, they can't do it the day before.
Right.
Because they have to go to General Assembly. So it's usually the year before. They go into the General Assembly, and then the General Assembly is gonna want to see support letters from all the taxing districts before it approves that.
Okay, so can you help me? Because I think I have an idea where things are going, but tell me where I'm wrong. Okay, so farmland, the tax that we accrue, right? The revenue that we take, it doesn't move a lot annually, right? Like it moves pretty slow compared to residential.
Right.
So freezing it, although we do take a hit, it's probably not that big of a hit, right? Over the course of it all, right?
Correct.
What we are incurring a cost on though is if they have residential and they send students here, then we get a cost for that, right? And
Correct.
supposedly they reimburse us for that, but we talked about maybe that's not happening. What other costs am I missing that we're going to lose money on by having this happen?
The cost you would be losing if this property would develop without the subsidies, and then that's the potential.
So it's potential earnings, it's not actual.
Right, that they didn't need a subsidy to develop it. They would have built the gas station, they would have built the warehouse, whatever, without subsidies. And so that it's that lost opportunity cost revenue that you would have received without a TIF.
Yeah, okay.
But if the TIF goes through, then you've described all of the loss in revenue.
In terms of next step, I'm assuming Crown hasn't filed yet. I haven't heard anything, but let's say tomorrow Crown files. At that point, then you come and have a discussion, because you're our conduit, right? You're our representative.
Correct.
The legal. How does that, what can you just, at a high level, run us through that process? Let's just assume they file tomorrow.
Sure. Then, as soon as we have a feeling that it's got momentum to go forward, then that you don't want to waste legal resources spending money on attorneys if it's not going to happen. So you want to know as soon as you've got a sense that, yeah, this thing actually might happen, then I'll reach out to the village attorney and we'll start talking about an intergovernmental agreement. If you accept TIF dollars for the tuition, you cannot challenge the TIF. So and same thing with the intergovernmental agreement. The concept is you're going to support the TIF if they're going to agree to some of these other subsidies.
Can you expand on the challenging of the TIF? So we just say we're not going to accept this money and it's basically a statement? We just turn away the money?
If you decide we want to challenge the creation of the TIF, saying that it doesn't satisfy the tests required by the statute, then you couldn't accept the tuition dollars.
Gotcha.
But those tuition dollars aren't guaranteed either. It's only if there's funds available.
Yeah, I mean,
So if this is Bridgeview, district's screwed, right?
Again, hopefully they're doing a good enough business plan that the TIF, the tuition dollars are first dollar, so that's a good
Right.
thing.
But if there's not the money there,
It's, yes,
Right.
it's happening,
Okay.
correct.
Yeah,
There's
it's
no
happening.
guarantee.
and it is happening right now, isn't it?
There
There
are
are several districts. Right?
City of Chicago loves TIF, and they TIF, I thought I saw some really scary number, the percentage of their property that's TIF'd. Yeah,
Yeah. And Argo Summit is,
for the right scenarios, TIFs make sense, because again, if this was gonna be farmland forever for the next 30 years, 35 years, and not likely to develop in any manner, then the TIF comes in, then it's a good investment. If this would have developed without a TIF, then it's a bad investment from the school. Sure. And what that answer is, none of us know.
I know,
Right.
you have to have a crystal ball.
I mean, some things, you have to see, how far out are is the housing coming from, as we get further out from Chicago. There's still a lot of vacant land as you get further east of here, so.
Yeah.
So if we put out a statement as a board today saying we don't support the TIF, as a board, Kaneland School District does not support anything, that moving forward, does that then put us out of the opportunity to get additional funding from this since we're not supporting? Is that basically what you were saying?
Well, there's two levels. Not supporting it is different than an actual challenge to it,
Oh, okay.
right? If you accept the tuition dollars, you can't challenge it.
Got it.
You can't file a lawsuit to try to get it disbanded.
Okay.
But politically, if you say we don't support it, you can still take the tuition dollars. But again, in the ideal world, if you just decide to support it, then we're able to get some other legal sources of revenue from the TIF district through the IGA.
And the assumption is that the municipality did their due diligence to get to a point where the what they're presenting is unchallengeable, I would assume, right? I mean,
Presumption that it's legal.
that's all
correct.
that, right?
Right. Most of them are. Again, it's a pretty loose standard. It's Illinois, right? So it's pretty, it's satisfying.
If it goes south, it's GO bonds. GO bonds.
Again, the finance, there are a lot of
Yeah,
pieces
well,
there. That's
it's
something.
not,
different.
it's not just revenue bonds at that stage. It's
If they build
Village
new-
of Sugar Grove general obligation bonds that would have to be paid by the taxpayers of Sugar Grove. Essentially,
Typically,
Council?
yes. Yeah. Because the village is spending the money for the infrastructure. And if they can't, it doesn't generate enough revenue to pay for that infrastructure, then you're right, then somebody's gotta pay that.
Mr. Cook, not to put you on the spot, just want to make sure you're part of the conversation. Did you have any comments or anything you wanted to add?
Not at the moment. I mean, a lot of what Mr. Mankowski said would be emphasized, that if they have the funds, that they can pay the tuition, but other than that, nothing.
So I think this is the kind of the, first time we're getting an opportunity to talk, as this picks up momentum. If it looks like it's going forward, then again, we'll reach out to the village to talk about it in governmental agreement, and we'll have more discussions about this.
Any other questions for?
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
thanks for
the
coming
information.
out. Thank you. Thank you.
There's no actionable item for this, for J3, so, at this point, we'll move forward. So that brings us to the, board superintendent report.
Yes, thank you. I have a few. Last week, our Citizens Advisory Committee met. We had a good turnout, had about 15 committee members there. Thanks to Mrs. Eggleston, she secured a guest speaker for us for that night on social media and students' mental health wellness as it relates to social media, typically phone usage, their online involvement, those types of things, and had good feedback, good information, shared some apps, websites, links that families can use to try to understand better what their students are doing so they can help support them as they go through high school, as they go through the learning process of what should be acceptable and not. The other piece we talked about, which was a board request that CAC talked about, was part of the student handbook, specifically dress code. And there were, the feedback on dress code was basically, it was split half and half. There was 4 or 5 CAC members there who had mentioned and requested the Illinois Principals Association Model School Handbook, look more into dress codes of what's acceptable, what's not, specifically attire, dress code attire. And so the group shared some of their concerns, and the other half of the group shared some feedback on, as educators, what that looks like for educators in classrooms, what it looks like for administrators, the work, what that could look like. And then also Katie, we invited Katie Fotenauer to attend. Katie shared a little bit from a student perspective, answered 2 or 3 questions there as well, and gave some feedback to CAC, what it's like to be a student, and then her thoughts. So again, I shared those thoughts with the group that's putting together the handbook, the student handbook, is in relation to dress code. We will then bring that back to CAC for one more review of highlighted, redlining what the changes are, so CAC can take a look at that. And then that eventually does, as you remember, that comes back to the board either later in April or the beginning of May to formally approve the handbook, which the dress code is one piece of many pieces, with the handbook being about 100 pages long. So that was CAC.
Dr. Lehman, I don't know if this is a topic for future agenda, but is there any way you could discuss with the board in terms of, so let's say we wanted to implement a policy that said kids have to wear red shoes every day. I'm just making something ambiguous. What the process would look like and what our authority is, what the steps would be to implement that red shoes rule. For those of us that, well, I don't fully, I mean, I get that it goes to CAC, but is that something that would be like a topic for future agenda, or can you just go over it at a high level?
Yeah, and again, CAC and his advisory group, they don't have a formal voting process to make a recommendation. They just share feedback, we gather it, and then compile that. If the board was interested in some aspect of whether it's dress code or other parts of the handbook, when it is presented to the board would then bring questions at that time. The committee would be able to answer those questions, and if there are specific recommendations, the committee would then entertain those, just like we would when something comes on first reading and second reading. We'd be able to look at it first reading, determine if any of those changes are applicable, get the information to the board, and then the board would approve those possible changes or possible pieces of feedback that were directly given. So it'd be ultimately board purview. The other thing that I have in your packet, you will see two documents. One is this one. Yours is not a fancy glossy because I just got one of those. So yours is just a regular sheet of paper. And then also with it comes the steps on the IASB resolution process. So if you recall, every year in November at the joint annual conference, we have a board member who votes on the resolutions and brings that information back. But this is the beginning of the process. So we have 2 meetings in May. That would be the 2 meetings if we were to talk about this, as you talked about a topic for future agenda. If the board has a position that the board would like to investigate, a position the board would like to share, we would discuss that here. It's an open session topic. We would discuss it here, talk about it, and then follow the timeline that you see across the top of the one pager. Again, needs to be finalized by May, and then in June, July is when it goes back to the IASB and comes back to us for action in November. So we have till May to make sure if there are any topics for resolution, board members would want to bring that and then share it as a topic for future agenda. We would be able to investigate that, look at the feasibility, and then come up with what the wording would look like that we would like to submit as an official or potential, because they don't take all of the positions that are forwarded, that we would want to submit if the board does have a position they would like to share.
So just so you guys know, and forgive me if you already do, but we pay fees to the IASB as a school board, and part of those fees go towards lobbying, so we can present a topic if we want to as a board, say, hey, can you guys, well, it goes through this approval process, but we can ask them, can you go to Springfield and lobby for these changes at the state legislative process? So that's something to think about.
So if there's a topic that you'd like to discuss, again, it needs to be done by the second meeting in April. I'm sorry, the second meeting in May, because by June, we have one meeting at the end of June that misses the 150-day notification to the state. Okay. Then the last thing I have this Friday, we do have a countywide institute day. So it is a day of work for staff. Our teachers are spread out across the county and in their buildings at various meetings. The county does have, if you go to the ROE website, they have a series of offerings across the county for teachers to attend, staff members to attend, and then also in district, we have several workshops that our staff members attend as well. So it is a day of work for staff, and I'm sure Katie will share in a couple minutes again, not a day for students, so I'm sure that they look forward to that. Those are the updates that I have for tonight. Thank you.
Dr. Fuchs?
Yes. Our February FAC meeting was canceled on that day, and it's been rescheduled for March 7th. So if you're interested in attending the FAC, please let me know, and I'll get you an agenda. And it's rescheduled for March 7th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. at the district office.
Do you know what the topics are for that meeting?
Yes.
Sorry. Finance related things.
There you go.
It's all right. It's all right.
Budget.
Okay.
Referendum,
That's what I was wondering.
investments. I think there's one more. Remember?
I don't, and that's why I'm like, I wish I had a computer, right?
Yeah.
You're good.
Okay.
That was actually the referendum. That's good. So we're good. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Katie?
Good evening. As students head into the last week of February, they have something to look forward to as we have this Friday off. Later in the week, Kaneland's DECA team will go to their state competition where students who performed well in sectionals get to compete, so I will bring updates back on to see how well they do. On Monday, February 12th, junior and senior guys faced off in their powder puff game. Juniors won the game but lost to the varsity volleyball team. On Friday, February 16th, Kaneland and staff faced off in the Royal Rumble during an assembly, which led to the sophomores ultimately beating the other student teams and staff teams in a variety of competitions. And on Saturday, February 17th, the winter dance took place with over 100 students attending. For sports updates, boys varsity basketball beat Marmion Academy 58-50 to win the regional championship. Kaneland will now host sectionals this week. On Wednesday, February 28th, they will play Belvedere North at 7 p.m. Also, boys track and field participated in a Clash at the Coliseum meet, finishing in 18th place. The boys had many personal bests, with senior Victor Balkanov having the second fastest time in school history, 4th fastest in Illinois, and 56th fastest in the U.S. Boys freshman basketball beat Sycamore 52-39 to wrap up their season with a final record of 17-9. Also, congratulations to Angelina G for becoming the state champion in her weight category for girls wrestling, and Brooklyn Schaefer for making it to state as well. Unfortunately for us, after beating Sycamore in the sectional semifinal game 44-41, girls varsity basketball fell to Dixon 45-36 in the sectional championship. For upcoming dates, the Kaneland Crier will release their 4th issue this Thursday. Thank you, that is all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Katie. Thanks, Katie. Thank you, Katie.
Anything else from the board? No? All right. Move on to topics for future agenda.
Do we need a space to discuss if we want to make some kind of proposal to IASB? If we need like carve out a space on the agenda if we want to do something like that.
Something to consider. I mean, since I first was a delegate, I was like, I think we should discuss it and maybe, put something together. It'd be nice to be represented out there.
We talked briefly about Senate Bill 100. Remember? I think that's when you went down, right? So I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we need like a agenda item to get that going.
What do you think?
I can add it on probably wouldn't be the March meeting because there's only one in March and it's longer with our staffing plan, but I can add it to one of the April meetings if there's a consensus. Then that way, at least you can talk through possible topics, or I can bring it back on an April meeting.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, let's move on to round 2 of public comments. Please keep in mind the same provisions as earlier, 3 minutes, be cordial, and the topic parameters. So, first up, Catherine Sutterstone. Strong.
For allowing me to come back up and finish this. Usually I'm good with the 3 minutes, but finance stuff is a little wordy. So to finish out what I was talking about before related to finances and budgets for the district pertaining to the Kibble expansion. As of October 25th, 2023, planning for the upcoming fiscal year 2024-2025 budget was discussed using historical financial information from the ISB annual financial report. Using a 5-year average, which is consistent with data included in the 5CAS planning model, the district met the following budgeted and actual areas of revenue and expenditures during that fiscal year of 2023-2024. As a whole, the district met 100% of budgeted revenue to their actual revenue, 97.5% of budgeted expenditures to actual expenditures, and 99% of the budgeted revenue to actual expenditures. The board was then requested to use these recommendations and data as assumptions for the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget development plan. As of September 11th, 2023, it was noted for the fiscal year 2023-2024, operating revenues for the district would be $72.2 million, which is 4.9% more than the fiscal year of 2022-2023. This is due to federal funds and local tax levy revenues. Referencing the 5CAS planning model structure and the previously discussed financial information, this data confirms the yearly tax levy funds do increase in projection and have shown a pattern of growth. In summary, conducting the financial review of the existing budget information concludes the KIPLA expansion to 9th grade and further is possible if the board and the admin choose to allocate the funds available to the continued development of the program. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next up, Laura Ekstrom.
Hi, everybody. I'm Laura Ekstrom. I'm in Village of Virgil resident and a proud parent of one existing KIPLA student, soon to be 2 next year. We're officially registered. Yay! I just wanted to come up and just take a step back and just ask the board to consider the KIPLA Personalized Learning Academy as an investment in our school district. I feel like in the last several weeks, we've all given our personal feelings on the matter. You know that the students that are current students of KIPLA are committed to the learning program. And you've heard from us that there are people from outside districts that are interested in coming in. I don't know how many people we've had ask the school district directly what the out of district tuition cost is, but I've personally been asked that by at least 5 different families. And I really do feel like this program, being such a great existing, like a program that exists currently in our school district and not a lot in other school districts in our area, hardly at all in other school districts in our area, is a really good investment for our district. We will bring people into our district with this program, and if we don't invest in the program now, we're gonna end up losing that interest. If we can't say, yes, we're committed to this program, yes, we want to move forward, we're not only going to lose the students that are currently enrolled in KIPLA, but we're going to lose people who are interested in coming from outside the district as well. So I really just want to put it as a step back, as a, hey, like maybe this is a really good business choice. And I want to encourage the board to look at that aspect of it. Because even though we're only a small community now, the idea is to grow it, right? Maybe we only have 2% of the school district in our program today, but next year, I don't know what the enrollment numbers are, but I can tell they're growing. So I'd really like us to invest in this program. I think it's really good for our school district. I think we will find families that want to move to our school district because of the program. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Would anyone else like to take this opportunity to address the board?
Thank you. Jennifer Conan, Village President in Sugar Grove. A lot of speculation. We still are as well as a village. Until that application comes forward, we can't provide you concrete facts. But conversations with our developer, to your surprise, there are no GO bonds. There are no bonds. It's self-funded on a reimbursement. So it takes it from 23 years. It takes that extension off the table because there's no need to pay somebody back. If you haven't put your Sugar Grove residents at risk, there's no reason to pay them back. It's the developer that's at risk of getting paid back. So what I will say is Sugar Grove is not on the hook The Village of Sugar Grove is not in the business of making risky business decisions. So for all the Sugar Grove residents that are listening tonight, that's not what we're doing. We're entertaining a TIF district on this property that is self-funded by the developer on a reimbursable, on public infrastructure. That's what they're asking for. So I would encourage everyone here, before you make a decision in your mind, wait for the information to come out. We're still waiting. They haven't made an application. When they do make an application, take that information for what it's worth and then ask your attorney your questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else like to address the board? Okay. Board of Education is scheduled for a closed session meeting to discuss the Illinois Open Meetings Act, Section 2C8, 2C9, 2C2, and 2C1, where we anticipate action to be taken following the closed session pertaining to 2C9 student discipline. Due to the anticipated length of time in closed session, after the vote to adjourn, the recording of tonight's meeting is concluded. Any action taken by the Board of Education will be documented within the meeting minutes that will be made public at the next Board of Education meeting. At this time, I will entertain a motion to go into closed session to discuss Illinois Open Meetings Act 2C28, 2C8, 2C9, 2C2, and 2C1 at 8:16 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
And a roll call.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.